welcome to Bridge by Words, the podcast where aspiring leaders connect with experienced politicians, gaining insights and insights for their own political journeys. Today, I'm fortunate enough to sit down with Richard Riordan, the State Victorian Member for Polwarth.
Yeah, Polwarth. Yeah, Polwarth. So it looks like Polwarth, but it's Polwarth.
Yeah. So I've already named it wrong. So could you brag about the area you've grown up and lived, and if you want, your electorate?
Can I brag about it?
Yeah, brag about it. Talk
Absolutely.
About it.
So I think I'm the only electorate that is represented by an animal. So Polwarth is named for the Polwarth sheep.
Yeah.
The Polwarth sheep is still bred and produced in our part of the world. If both of us were in finely tailored Italian European suits, we would probably have 5% of that suit produced from wool grown in the paddocks in my electorate. Yes, so the Polwarth sheep was bred for Australian conditions back around the gold rush. Mm-hmm. It produced a heavy, thick wool and on a sheep that was good to eat and didn't get sore feet in the mud and the bogs of southern Victoria.
Yeah.
And it's not a particularly sexy sheep. I think in sheep world it's pretty ugly, but it's durable, long-lasting, and makes up about 5 to 10% of your finest European suits that say they're merino or whatever, but they have a little element of Polwarth because the Polwarth doesn't get all crinkly and pretentious. It just keeps the suit durable and long-wearing. So that's the electorate, but today not so much famed for sheep, but famed for we produce the bulk of Australia's cream and ice cream. So
lots of dairy.
We have a lot of dairy. And we have the marvellously locally owned Buller factory that produces a great swathe of branded ice creams and things that come from our area.
Yeah.
A big swathe of all the drinking milk that we have here in Victoria and southern New South Wales.
Yeah.
We have Australia's largest timber company, privately owned by local people also, like the dairy, employing thousands of people and supplying about 30% of Australia's construction timber. Mm-hmm. We produce about 30% of Victoria's gas. So domestic gas comes from Polwarth, piped all the way to Melbourne, and it's only used domestically. So we don't have to have everyone fighting about gas going overseas. It's 100%
This isn't
used.
that stuff that gets sent to South Australia or anything?
No, a little bit goes to South Australia, but not much. The bulk of it, because Victoria's so desperate for gas, it goes into the Victorian network. But for those who want to stop gas production, it's worth them noting that the approximately $14 billion worth of renewable energy that's been built to the north of the Polwarth electorate and across the top, mainly wind. So, it's important for people to realise that wind farms aren't always benevolent institutions, as often some people might think they are.
Everything's
but in this
transitional,
case,
you got to.
So the biggest one, the Golden Plains Wind Farm, is in part owned by IKEA. So all their profits, of course, will go to Sweden. Owned by Ferrari Motor Car, so a big percentage of that. So it goes off to Italy.
Didn't know that.
So these are large foreign multinational companies. So they just having a field day, making their conscience feel good in Europe, taking profits from Victoria and sending them overseas.
Right.
And of course, many in the statewide electorate don't realise
I guess
how
on that
works.
Point, you'd prefer that all of these renewable projects that are getting done to be state-owned?
No, I would actually prefer people to understand what's really going on with renewable projects because there's a wonderful new word that we'll all learn about over coming years called dunkelflout.
Dunkelflout. And
Victoria's particularly prone to dunkelflout, and dunkelflout means a cloudy day with not much wind. Mm. And when you've invested $14 billion, and that's still going, by the way, that's just so far, dunkelflout's a problem because you've put all your eggs in one basket. And the only bit of the little basket next to it, which is the gas-fired peaking plant, which is also just used to be in my electorate, just moved out, so it's just on the edge of my electorate, but its gas comes from my electorate. So our part of the world does our heavy lifting in providing energy to the rest of Victoria, but it's coming at a huge community cost, which is something that will continue to unfold over coming years.
Sounds like we need some kind of Polwarth version of electricity.
But I haven't got to the best bit that we do. Well, it's tourism. So we've got the most visited.
I do have a point. It's the gateway to the Great Ocean Road.
It's not only the gateway, it is the Great Ocean Road. So the entire length of the Great Ocean Road is in Polwarth. We've got beautiful rainforest. We've got the second wettest spot in Australia at Weeparana at the top of the Otways, over 2 metres of rain a year.
Very beautiful in there.
Which is about a 45-minute drive from my home, and at 2 metres of rain at the top of the hill and at the bottom of the hill where I am, it's about 700 millimetres. So
you're at flood risk a lot, or
no, never floods at all. No, 700 mils doesn't really give you much flooding, but 2 metres can. But we all saw the floods, didn't we, on the news? You could edit in some wonderful scenes of the floods in my electorate, but the distance from the top of the hill out to sea is not very far, and so of course you get a lot of rain in one hit, and it all goes swooshing out at one time. So we have a lot of visitors, so a very diverse economy, diverse climatic conditions, and all in all makes it the best spot in the world to live.
Yeah. As any good economy should be diverse. Yeah. It sounds like you're very fortunate to have grown up and lived in that area your whole life.
Very fortunate, yes. Or some might say very unimaginative, because I'm 5 generations and I haven't moved very far.
That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I don't like people throwing shade at those who love it where they live.
Yeah.
So I guess we don't have to go crazy far back, like your great-great-grandfather first coming here or anything like that. But
I could bore you with that if you wanted me to.
I did find that very exciting. I found that funny where leading your inaugural speech, he was a socialist Labor man.
He was. Yeah, so I've got...
In 1907. So there is this little hereditary spark
I guess the love of the area and being involved in how the area evolves is something my family's done for a long time.
Yeah.
In no overly important way. My dad's first cousin was the first female Shire president. Might have been in Victoria, but if not Victoria, certainly in our part of the world. Mm-hmm. That was back a long time ago, and she was a pretty feisty woman in her day.
You definitely need to back then.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's right. I always remember she was a pretty fearsome lady. And then, so this great-grandfather, who was my dad's grandpa and this first Shire president's grandpa, was a mad Englishman. I'm 90% Irish except for this one crazy Englishman.
Yep.
It was a story about a mad Englishman. Anyway, he came out. He hated England for all the snobbery and all that sort of stuff. But he wore it big on his sleeve. He was a big Labor Party man. I've still got his Labor Party membership ticket.
Wow.
And he was the secretary of the local Labor Party when one of the most famous Labor Party speeches given, not the light on the hill, but when the soon-to-be Prime Minister Fisher stood on the dais in Colac and said to the last penny and to the last shilling and the last pound, we will stand with England and fight in World War One. And that royal command was, he gave the speech a couple of times. It was first given in Colac at a gathering, and my great-grandfather was, I think I've got the minutes for that meeting actually in a suitcase full of all his garbage that he wrote. Yeah. But I was honoured that he stood for my seat in 1909 or
1907.
No, it was exactly 100 years before me. So it must have been during the war.
Yeah. Okay.
And for some bizarre reason, Trove, the online history thing, it has a speech on there. Yeah. I had no idea. So it was just amazing, found it on there. So I did in my inaugural speech 100 years later read some of the crazy Labor ideology of my great-grandfather when he got absolutely trounced at the election in 1915.
Yeah.
So, but he did it because he cared about his community.
And that's the important part.
And his big thing was he was almost hunted out of town at the time, but he was also a mad keen environmentalist, which has stuck with most of my family members ever since, in a lot of practical environmentalism, not tying yourself to a stake and carrying on like a pork chop, but actually doing stuff. And he got involved in the water board. We had one of the first inland sewered towns, and the town elders at the time just wanted to dump all the sewage untreated into the lake. And he just thought that was a stupid idea and campaigned very hard and became quite unpopular with the who's who of the town at the time.
How dare you tell me where to put my shit?
That's right. And he's going, just don't put the shit in the lake. It's a beautiful lake. Don't fill it full of shit. And he was 100% right. And it took up until, I think, from around that 1920s through to the early 1970s before the town elders had enough foresight that this was a really stupid idea. And it all got fixed.
Good.
But so, yeah, all of us, I guess that teaches you that everyone's perspective can have value.
Yeah.
You should never write people off whether they're left, right, whatever.
No, like, good ideas can come from everywhere.
Correct.
And like that's my little, philosophy dream of the way the Parliament should work. You know what I mean?
And
like you guys are what? Like I think like a third or quite a bit of the lower house. So maybe your ideas should be contributed.
Yes. Unfortunately,
into the overall mosaic that is the government.
Yeah, the political narrative today, though, of course, just
like whoever's got the majority says what happens.
Well, and it's also, it can't be a good idea because it's come from the other side.
Yeah, I don't like that inherent no.
Yeah, so that does happen a lot.
Yeah.
And I think it just proves you've got to walk in people's shoes other people's shoes as often as you can, and that's something I've always prided myself on is not being. I mean, a lot of people might say I'm very dogmatic or very fixed in my ways, but I'm actually not. I actually do enjoy walking in other people's shoes and looking at a problem from another perspective because I think it's better outcomes.
Yeah, it helps to step back and actually look at it. Yeah. So with that sort of that lesson or philosophy, is that something you've sort of learned through earlier years, growing up, working with the small business of your family and all that sort of life?
Yeah, there's two things I think would bring me to that conclusion. Well, three things. One was the example of my great-grandfather. So that's someone who, we've all made jokes about in the family for a long time because of the things he said and wrote.
Yeah.
But he was sometimes right. I also learned it as a big lesson. I grew up in the 1980s. So the big political, and I've always loved politics, right? So, but the big political issue when I was like late high school was the whole South Africa thing.
Oh, could you?
So our school that I went to, little country school, we were going to host a South African exchange student.
Yeah, and because of all the tensions.
And we had the most militant Catholic secondary school in Australia. We were the first and only Catholic school for our teachers to go out on strike. It was a hotbed of politics in a little country town. And as a result, they were a very bolshy bunch, and there's no way we were going to have a white South African student in our school. And as a very vocal, opinionated Year 10 student, I thought that was the most appalling thing. So I ended up in a bit of a public letter writing sledge with my school and some of my teachers in the local paper.
This is a little grade 10 year.
Year 10 Year 10, I think it was.
Yeah.
And some of fellow students, anyway, it was a very big issue. And I remember, I'd done a lot of research to my mind on the rights and wrongs of Nelson Mandela at the time because he was still incarcerated.
Yep.
And, but the main premise I had was you can't, and it's a thought I have to this day, the concept of punishing children for the sins of their fathers, I think is a terrible thing. And we do it so often in so many different ways. Yeah. And it's just, to me, an inherently unjust
and I think that other layer as well is like you can't always punish the citizens of the actions of their government.
Yeah, that's right. So it's also, and to my mind, having that person come out and everyone in our school listening to her perspective at the time was a more valuable outcome for everybody involved rather than sort of, in effect, behaving like the South African government we didn't like, which was to pigeonhole people and And to this day, it's not very popular sometimes, but I am a big free speech person that I'd rather someone with abhorrent ideas say their piece and then we can all judge them for who they are. And then, because it's really hard to justify a really bad position.
Before anyone's even heard it.
But also then when you've got to stand up and justify your position.
Yeah.
Now, there are more complications to that argument. I understand it's not always that straightforward.
Extreme stuff
but punishing this girl and not letting her come to our school, I thought at the time robbed us all of learning what it was like. To be her. I didn't think for a minute we were propping up the regime, although people have that argument and there's some validity, I guess, to some of that. But anyway, so that was my first big political campaign, as it always seems to be someone's had their first go at it, and that was mine. I also learnt from that I was totally wrong about my research on Nelson Mandela. I've since learnt that, and he would definitely be in my list of political heroes because I think...
really?
Yeah, absolutely, and it comes from that time because...
What was the flip? So like at first it was...
the flip was how he behaved when he became president.
Yeah.
Okay. Because in every African country surrounding South Africa and Africa's lot today, as is so easy in politics because it happens to a different extent here in Australia, but revenge always comes to the fore.
Yeah. Trying to get some level of reparation or
and I just think that is always the greatest character trait. If you can come, overlook, and move forward, and just keep moving forward. You can't change the past.
Turn the other cheek and bring people with you.
Yeah, that's right. It's a bit of an old biblical saying, I guess, but it's just a powerful, powerful way to move people forward and not to embed in the next generation past prejudices and
because it just compounds.
It compounds. It gets worse.
And
we're seeing that dreadfully in the Middle East on all sides. Like, I'm not pointing the finger at anybody.
No, but it's relatively.
But on all sides. Yep. Something happens, you just keep blaming everyone else. And I guess from
no one can control.
Yeah, and I also come to that conclusion because in my own family circumstances, we were potato famine refugees by and large. Sort of everyone forgets that most of the Irish era as victims of that, you get added to the great long list of world events that caused people to end up in Australia, and that's one of the first ones.
Yeah.
And from that, I've often found it interesting with my own family because I grew up very Irish Catholic, but we never had any prejudice. Like, we were pro the Australian flag, and I didn't really realise there was all that sectarian stuff that went on. Even though my uncles and aunts were all who'd cross-pollinated with a Protestant, were married outside. I didn't even realise because it all happened before I was sort of conscious
but at the time, that would have been the talk of the town.
Oh, that's right. And people stood in or sat in cars outside the church because they weren't allowed in the church. And that's in the early 1970s and the 60s, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know how long it went for in other communities, but that was the prevailing thought of the day. We've forgotten about all that stuff, right? But I remember probably an even earlier one than my South African example was at our primary school. We ended up with a very Irish, sympathetic, keeping in mind that in Belfast and there was all that war still going on in the 70s and 80s, right? Yeah. So this is a little kid in primary school and we're having a fight over whether the Australian flag should be flown, not whether we should have a new flag or whether, all the debates we have today, but it was because it had the Union Jack on it and a very pro-Irish person who didn't want who didn't want that symbol being flown at a school dominated by Irish Catholic descendants, you see. And that's in Australia in the 70s.
Yeah.
And I probably got my South African fight from my mum on that one because she just thought it was stupid. We're here in Australia. It's not our fight to have. We don't need to be bringing those wars over here. Yeah. So I guess that's sort of where I think you've got to keep moving forward.
Yep.
So, it's a sort of little interest. That's the politics. And 99% of other kids my age in my community at the time would have been oblivious to all of that. It's just something.
They're all busy being kids. And
being normal. Yeah. And for some reason, I always had a fascination with politics.
Yeah. And the adult dramas.
Well, I'm just interested. Like, both my parents would have said I was a weird little kid. I was sat and watched the news from the minute I was, don't give me the wiggles or whatever. Sit me in front of the news and I was always happy.
Yeah. All right, so we'll fast forward from school. So entering the workforce or university and all that sort of stuff. Yeah,
so you asked about politics and family business. As usual, got sidetracked. So being in politics and in a party in particular. So there's being in politics and there's being in a party.
Yeah.
And there's many well-documented dramas about how that works, in
their own spheres.
In their own spheres, right? Yeah. So, and probably more so on our side of politics than the other side.
And the Liberals at the moment or something?
Oh, no, just the Liberal Party. I think if you look all the way back through time, you will find more people having dramas in the Liberal Party than the Labor Party.
Yeah.
That's because to be a Labor MP, by and large, you've come from a union position. So you don't get your job.
Within their side of things, there's a very strict bureaucracy.
A very strict path forward. You're not just a random person off the street.
Not saying you are either.
No, but we are on our side. That's the big difference. And that's often not sort of taken into account enough when the media reports on the dramas in the Liberal Party. Liberal Party, you can be a random nobody on the street who just is passionate about your community
and aligns with the values of the Liberal Party.
You think you align with the Liberal Party.
Oh, right? Really? Is there dramas of people that don't actually?
Well, the problem is in party politics, it works when everyone toes the line. Right now, the broader community has a view of towing the line, you just become a friend of the party and you put that first. Well, at the end of the day, politics is about numbers, and you don't win in Parliament, you don't get things through unless you have the numbers. The reason you come together in a party is so that you have generally like-minded people who can come together and do good things together.
Yeah.
And that's on all sides of politics. Even my Labor opponents, I'll concede, by and large, people are there for a benevolent reason. It sometimes doesn't play out that way, but that's generally why they go there. But in the Labor movement, LABOR movement.
Yep, the Australian Labor.
Yeah.
Yep.
You get there because you've come through the union movement. So you're well trained and
you've contributed to their overall movement.
But the most important aspect is you're well trained in doing what you're told.
Yeah.
Right. You don't get that position unless you've proven yourself to be someone who's going to toe the line.
Yep.
And Labor toe the line so much better than us. On our side of politics, and we get an election at the end of the year, we will have over half our candidates, probably over half our new candidates may not have been in the Liberal Party terribly long. They may have been an independently working farmer or small business owner or consultant or some other trade or profession where they've pretty much been their own boss. That tends to be more on our side of Parliament.
There is a level of diversity, I guess, of backgrounds.
Yeah, but the gluing common factor is that they're independently minded.
Yeah.
Right? So you're asking an independently minded person to come and join a group of people where one person at the top basically gets the say over everything or, sets that direction.
Yeah. So in this case, Jess Wilson sort of thing.
Yeah. So in this case, you're buying into the fact that Jess is now in charge.
Yep.
She's got the conch, if you like, and she has been tasked with the job of steering the ship in a particular direction. And she's got to steer the ship for everybody, not just you.
Yeah.
Right? So
in a way, there's maybe a level of her job's a bit harder, I guess, trying to manage all the Liberal MPs or candidates.
Well, it is because in Labor, right, so when Jacinta says, I'm going to change the donation laws and you're all going to stay in Parliament till 6 a.m. this morning like we did today, and I'm changing the laws that will benefit us, it doesn't matter if you don't agree with that in the Labor Party. You're told to do that and you will vote along those lines, because if you don't, you lose your pre-selection.
Yeah. You
can't really make that happen. And, the obvious examples of the recent dramas we've had with John Pasuto or Moira or, whatever drama.
There's a whole thing of, I think all your party funds are kind of tied up in certain things at the moment.
That's on the donation side, but I'm just talking about the behaviour of people. We don't have...
With the different structure of parties.
Yeah. So no one in the Liberal Party can go to someone who's causing dramas in the party and say, well, if you keep that up, we're going to kick you out.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, we don't have a mechanism for that, right? Labor does. Labor just says, right, there's Will Fowles and Darren too. There's two examples sitting in the Parliament today. They didn't toe the line, didn't do what they were supposed to. You're out. We don't. You've all seen what happened when we tried to do that. It didn't work. We ended up in court and fighting and
the Moradem and stuff.
Yeah. And I don't want to talk about any of those things. I don't want to get too deep. But I'm just talking about that's the difference. And so what happens is, when you're talking about people who want to join politics, you have your two things. And so I guess the way I look at it is, what would you die in? So the question you have to ask yourself if you're going to join the Liberal Party or be an MP representing the Liberal Party is, what do I want to die in a ditch on?
Yeah.
So I've certainly seen in my 10 years in the Parliament, people, and I'll, make up an issue, a fairly minor one, like I didn't get a traffic light at a certain intersection in my community that I've told everybody I'm going to have it fixed. Yeah. And there might be a whole bunch of reasons why it didn't happen, but if we gave it to you, you'd have to give it to everybody else. Are you going to cross the floor and die in the ditch?
Over a set of lights.
Over a set of lights?
Yeah.
Now, some people would argue, an independent-minded person who puts their community first might say, well, yes, I am going to die in the ditch on that because that's the most important thing that my community wants today. But by doing that, you're then saying to your colleagues who are joining with you to form government or win the argument of the day, I'm always going to put myself first.
Yeah.
So there's a certain art where you have to be able to read the broader picture and team plan.
And see how everything feeds into itself.
And feeds into it, and you've got to go, what's the benefit? Now, I often ask myself, what would I die in a ditch on? I'm not going to reveal it to your listeners. But
would it be easier for you to answer that question 10 years ago? coming into this?
I would 10 years ago. I would have had
like a different kind of.
I would have had a very
ditch
different die in the ditch radar. Yep, absolutely. So you learn to travel there, but you also then learn the art of what can I get for my community, right? Because I think
compromise. And
I think most people, from my experience, understand politicians can't deliver everything into your local community and be everything to everybody, right?
Yep.
I think that
inherently that never happens.
What they want to hear or what they want to see is they want to see a person who's listening to them, so you understand the concern.
Yep.
Be honest with them and say, well, I can tell you now, I can't get that traffic light this year.
Mm-hmm.
I've got it on the list and we'll be able to get it in the next 5 years, but it's just not going to be this year.
Yeah.
And it's because, quite frankly, there's 2 other sets of traffic lights where 3 people have been killed.
And they take
and they've got to get first.
Yeah.
But I can assure you I'm lobbying, we will get that traffic light for you. That's a better answer than, I'm going to deliver the traffic light, and you just lied to them, because as soon as you do that, people...
I think people are more accepting of actually having things explained to them than people maybe assume. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, it's like, do I just not tell them and then we'll sort it out eventually, or do I just explain everything to them?
Yeah.
People love that, you know?
People do, but by giving them an answer, even though it's not 100% what they want to hear, the fact that you've taken time to respond, get them the feedback, give them a reason why, A, it says that you're aware of the problem, B, that you're working with them on it, and you put it into context, and sometimes that's the best you can do.
Yeah.
But, you see over time people, MPs that can't manage that, delivering the bad news. If you're not a bad news deliverer, politics is not a good profession for you.
Yeah.
Or if you can't figure out a way to deliver bad news.
Okay.
Good news is always easy to deliver, right?
Yeah.
High-fiving, everyone's happy. But, and it's not only policy bad news, you get all sorts of weird things you have to deliver bad news on for people.
Yeah.
They say about our job, the constituents that come to you, and I won't go into it now, but the conga line of bizarre stories and problems that people find themselves in is sitcom worthy. And
you will write a script or something.
I'm going to have the bit when I leave. I'm going to leave Ricky Gervais for dead. But so people have these issues, and you can't always deliver a good outcome. And when you can, it's fantastic. Our whole office will high five when we get a good outcome. And it does happen, but then sometimes you're generally pretty flat when stuff needs to happen and you just can't make it happen. So.
Yeah. I guess I wanted to go back a little bit. So you were saying, I'll let 2 things just quickly. The some of your working experience before entering this politics life. What's some of the lessons you carry to this day?
Yes.
And some of the mentors maybe along that way?
Yeah. So for me, 2 useful pre-parliament experiences I had, and I'd recommend these to anybody.
Yeah.
If you've been in a family business, like multi-generation family business like I was.
That in itself has its own dramas as well.
Yeah, it's right. It's the best training.
Yeah.
It's the best. And because I was the eldest son, I was sort of like the captain of the family team. My dad was a very generous man and very good at handing the reins over. So I was spoiled, because that in itself is a luxury if you've been in a family business. There's no shortage of people that are under the thumb until the old man dies. I didn't have that. I was very lucky. So I was given leadership opportunities early. But the philosophy I always had in a family business, and there was a few of us, and we're all pretty loud and mad and crazy.
Yep.
A robust conversation is a very healthy thing, and that's something's lost on a lot of people. Robust conversations are not bad. They're actually really useful.
Yeah.
Everyone feels like they got it off their chest. And you have the robust conversation with the very strong intent that you can all sit down and have a meal together. And that was the way we always operated.
Remove resentment so dessert tastes good.
Yeah, that's right. And, a bad sign would be if you couldn't get everyone to dinner. And I've got to say, in my nearly 30 years in the family show, that was never an issue. We'd always better sit down, have a drink and a laugh, and enjoy each other's company, because we've had the yelling and screaming match behind closed doors in the office, and then you sit down. And that's how political parties, certainly the Liberal Party, works very much like that.
Sounds like there's similarities.
And some people come to that tradition not realising that just because you've been animated and passionate about thing doesn't mean I hate you or I want to kill you or whatever. It's just like, I'm really excited. This is important to me and I need you to know it's important. So that was a really useful skill, and I think that's served me well in this, that I can have a robust conversation with a colleague and we can agree that we're just not going to see eye to eye on it and move on, right? And then,
at least in that you find the things that you do
that's
agree
right.
on.
And so you find what you agree on, and then you go, well, okay, we've both got a problem with this. And like, what's the bit in the middle that we can make work? And that's how politics works.
Yeah.
So that was really useful. And the other advice I received was from my predecessor. So two, because I first looked at my seat two MPs ago.
Yeah.
And he said, son, you're too young. You don't know enough. This is in my 20s.
Yep.
You'll make a terrible politician at that age.
Yep.
You need to go out, get involved in your community, get yourself on some committees and boards, and show the community that you understand it. Learn to work with all sorts of weird people that end up on those committees and their passions, and genuinely understand all that stuff. And by the time you get to about 40, you'll be probably half decent politician. Best advice I ever had.
That sounds pretty sound, yeah.
And I was so put out with that advice at the time. I thought, you pompous old hooah, what would you know?
Yeah.
Fortunately, my wife and I had 4 lovely children in that time.
Yeah.
We lived, a normal sort of family life with getting the kids to school and being involved in sport and all that stuff that you do.
So you kind of did take the advice.
I did. I absolutely took the advice because I didn't have much choice because I wasn't going to get it another way. But it was
because you're on the Colac Health and the catchment for
thing, and I was school board and committee and sports clubs and
lots of experience from that.
All that stuff.
Yeah,
and that advice is 100% right.
Yeah, it's
spot on. And while we often have this debate about we need more young people, young people's always good. And I was a young person once. We're all young once.
I believe it.
And I absolutely disagreed with the concept of just old people because when you're 20, 40 is really old. But when you're 40, 40's, oh my God, you're still 20, right?
Yeah.
But you're 20 and much smarter. Because one thing I fear for people who come into this job either too young or haven't yet established some family life and stuff, this job is completely unforgiving. You have...
Like you were here until 6 a.m. last night.
6 a.m. last night. I mean? We had parliamentary hearings. I didn't get home for nearly 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Luckily for me, my kids now have all pretty much left home, but it is my poor darling wife who's left high and dry. But she's naturally probably a bit more of an introvert, and I probably annoy her a lot because I'm always on the phone.
She's probably finishing a lot of books without you.
Correct.
Yeah.
But look, it's different now. She can come down and spend a night down here or whatever.
Especially because the kids are out.
Yeah. So, but I really feel for other MPs who start their life journey in this job.
Yeah.
Just because it's really hard. Like I can go and do a million frigging envelope openings on weekends and things like that because I don't have to miss a kid's sports game or all that stuff. And that's all the cost of this job. And people have no barriers. Like you talk to anyone in this building, they will talk about the emails and phone calls and stuff you get 24/7.
Yep.
People just have no barriers on this stuff. Everyone thinks as an MP they should be there for me.
Yeah, at all times.
We have a funny little saying in our office that no email written after midnight can be good.
That's a good one, yeah. That's telling your staff to sort of just chop it in.
No. So it's just that when we get to work in the morning, all the people that have written you an email at 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. and 4 a.m. and like people write to politicians at weird times of day and night on really weird topics.
I tried to get mine in before 4:30.
So we just go, and so we sort of almost have a separate email dealing pile with the ones after midnight because they're going to be always complex.
Yeah.
So that's what I learned. So, working in a family enterprise is good. And the other route, a lot of people come to politics, you have the Labor side, which is always a union background usually. And the other route a lot of our people will have is the apparatchik route. So you've worked with a poly or done something. And they're useful. Those people are useful too.
Yeah, because they've sort of like built that.
They understand politics. So they've got generally going to have a good nose for politics because there's politics and there's people and they're not always the same, So it's often good to have someone who's had experience. We've had a similar issue before and this is how it played out.
Yeah, when I was a staffer.
When I worked for such and such and what we did was X. So that's also good too because someone like me, when you've been in a family business or an enterprise, when you have a problem, you just make a decision, solve it.
Yeah.
You don't quite work like that in politics.
Yeah, okay.
Just ask Malcolm Turnbull.
So on the point that you made where people coming into the Liberal Party sort of, or in a sense, start off as independents, did you feel that? Or did you like from before you're stepping into or running, you knew like, oh, I'm going to go through the Liberal Party? Or?
Getting back to that childhood problem I had was I was always interested in news and politics. I'm probably one of the longest grounded, but I'm not the only one, but
Nick McGowan, he was like at 15.
It's right. So there's a few of us in here that have just been passionate about it all our lives, right?
Yeah.
But overwhelmingly on our side of politics, it will be someone plucked from a normal life who has got limited political experience.
Yeah.
And they
get like a more clearer cross section of what's.
Oh, it's just the communities, right? So I mean, people like me are a bit weird and in the minority.
Yeah.
Right. But we sort of understand the system and the process. And it takes all sorts, right? But the biggest risk we have is that our party doesn't. Just because you've been in the party doesn't mean you get the job.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas in the Labor Party it does. Whereas, if there's a dynamic ex-footballer in the country town that everyone loves, who's good with people and lived in a community all his life or whatever, or a netballer, or it doesn't matter who, but we will pick those people because we like.
So you guys reach out and be like, hey, we think you'd be good.
Yeah, we do try. I think we do try and do that. Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, certainly flat out doing it over the last 6 months as we lead up to the election.
You would be. Yeah, leading up to the election
because. The trade union movement by its very nature has a nursery. They've got this nursery of people that the powers that be can cherry pick and go, this person's got some good oratory skills, or this person's gets it and whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, politics is littered with people who've failed at this, who've, can't follow the line.
Yeah. So then from that, you were clear, I'm going to be a Liberal person at some point.
Yep, that's right.
Hence maybe seeking mentorship from previous people who helped.
Yeah, so I early on, I was probably the only 19-year-old who knew who my local state member of Parliament was.
Yeah.
And haunted his office.
So then from then, leading up to the 2015 election.
Yeah, so the by-election. So that was a by-election.
It was a by-election you got in. Okay.
Yeah. So I came in at a by-election. The guy had been Terry Mulder, who'd been the Transport Minister, and of course went out in the... He won his seat but we lost government in 2014.
Yep.
And Terry, he'd been there 15 years. It was like, I've done my bit. But the thing, I had a good competition. There was 6 local people ran.
Like a little pre-selection situation.
Yeah, the pre-selection. Yep. So, we often have controversy around these things. Mine was all pretty straightforward. It was publicly advertised. 6 people put their hands up. It was a good competition. The main competitor to me, I'll say at the end of the day, it got down to pretty much between the two of us. And the irony was we were, I think, 5 days apart in age. Our wives both had the same name. We both had 4 kids. We both had a university education.
Right.
And we were both sort of self-employed.
So you really had to make sure you stood out.
So you couldn't get any two more like candidates. So and then ironically, I think when would the census have been? Perhaps the next year or whatever. Anyway, or might have been the census before. Anyway, came out with they produce a sort of a demographic of what the average person looks like, and I think I had one more kid than average, but otherwise from my area, I was spot on average. I was the most average person you could be.
Yeah.
Average height. Average weight, average age of my electorate.
Perfect representative of your community.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, okay,
and can I just say on that, this is the one thing that fascinates me about this place.
Yeah,
is that the electorates generally, when someone leaves, and I've been here 10 years, so I've seen people, they almost dish up the identical person to what was there.
I'll put a picture up side by side if you want.
Yeah, the character. Well, in the case case of my seat, my predecessors were all the same as me. Few kids, ran a small business.
Yeah,
sort of known in the party as being quite parochial about your local thing, and because we've got plenty to brag about, right? In our way, so it's pretty good. But even on the Labor, like I can think of a couple of seats that we lost at the last election, and the Labor guy. The Labor person that's replaced our person, they're almost the same.
Yeah, okay.
Right? And I won't reveal any secrets, but some electorates are really boring and some electorates are a bit charismatic, and it's really funny. The electorates have personalities.
Yeah, and then like the representative,
do a thesis on that.
Really shows that. Yeah, I'll look into that.
Yeah. It's really funny what electorates dish up.
Like I guess like a very clear example would be Bob Catter on federal level. Like
he can only be mad in his electorate.
Yeah, you couldn't bring Bob Catter down here in Melbourne. He wouldn't go as far. Yeah.
But and you're quite right. I'll respectfully say there are electorates in Melbourne's demure, alcohol-free eastern suburbs.
Yeah.
That could never win an election in Bob Catter's.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Bob Catter could never win in Melbourne's eastern suburbs. So it's really funny. It's funny to watch. You could do a thesis on it, I'm sure.
Yeah. Okay, so you've run.
Yep.
They got pre-selected. You've gone through the whole election process.
In a by-election.
Yeah, by-election process, which I assume is probably kind of a different beast, but very similar.
Yeah, so my 3 elections I've had now, I had a by-election where I famously won in one hit, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
I won, and so the Electoral Commission didn't finish counting, so I never got a 2PP for my by-election, which is a bit depressing.
It's just like, this guy,
he's in, right? So that was good, tick. My next election was the 2018 one when we got our asses kicked, and that was a bit of a shock, but I polled very well my primary vote still. And then the big redistribution came, which fundamentally changed the profile of my electorate.
Yep.
Bit depressing. And on election night 2022, Anthony Green, who's been my TV hero for ever.
Like
you can't like politics and not like Anthony Green, right?
Yeah.
And I can't say that too loud because on my side of politics we're not supposed to like the ABC, but
Anthony Green's
he comes here. He used to come here occasionally, do a little briefing or something, and I'd be in the front row just thinking, good to see him. Just love the fact he knows everything. Anyway, the only time he's been called out, and I meant to write a letter to him and just tell him what grief he caused, but he got my electorate wrong on election night 2022.
Oh, he called it to go Labor?
He did.
Yeah.
And that's because the one thing he didn't update, because, he has this amazing, he didn't realise I ended up with 2 pre-poll booths. I've only ever had one. Polwarth's only ever had one pre-poll booth, but we end up with 2 because of the changed electorate, and he didn't factor that in.
Right.
And I'm sitting there because I love election nights. Like
it's exciting stuff.
It's exciting stuff.
Yeah,
so I've got my 5 laptops set up and all my people there, and we're all getting all the numbers in, and it's all, it's just everyone else is drinking and having a bit of a party, and I'm just
yeah.
And so I knew I'd won, and Anthony Green said, "Oh, shock! Polwarth's been kicked to the curb. They've lost." And I'm going, like, my wife burst into tears. She goes, "Well," and the whole thing was a drama.
Yeah.
And then it turned out that they just had the pre-poll booth that was never going to be my friend counted first, even though we'd actually had both of them in, so we knew what the
this would have been one closer towards that Geelong area.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it was the way that I'd only been the candidate for 6 months, just on 12 months or whatever. And it was always going to be a week showing there. But my heartland wasn't counted.
Yeah.
And so I had that in and go, what? And then because he put up with the votes, I knew he was missing this block of pre-poll votes. But so there you go. So I've had sort of an interesting time on my 3 elections, and God knows what's going to happen in November.
Well, they reckon it's a coin flip at the moment.
It's going to be a late night for everybody. I think.
But so throughout that period, you've had many hats. I guess you've been like a member of committees throughout your period.
I've had some good experiences.
Yeah, some that I'm excited about that I wanted to sort of ask was never mind, lost it. But I guess going back to your inaugural,
we're talking about housing. Did you want to?
Yeah, the housing committee and stuff like that. The planning and housing committee. You were on that committee for quite a while.
So I've done housing, and I was shadow minister for housing and planning.
Yeah. So what's some of the experiences of being a shadow minister? Yeah,
so look, shadow minister is a really fancy title for someone who has to do a lot of work.
Yep.
And
an extra workload on top of
massive extra workload, and you don't really get a chance to change anything. Well, you don't get you change nothing, right? All you can do is hope to win the election and then put ideas forward. So housing's an interesting one, right? Because at the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, it's food and housing, food and shelter, right? It's a really important issue. And it sadly in politics often gets kicked down the road a bit. Like we think potholes and a whole bunch of other things. Oh, well, law and order is it's up there with security too, I guess. But there's a whole bunch of other issues overshadow housing. But the reality in housing is that it's just been on a one-way trajectory into badness.
Just like
the last 10 years, we've doubled the homeless rate. The homeless rate increases every reporting period. We have less public housing bedrooms than we had before we started.
Skyrocketing house prices.
And
then like that
driven by a government who keeps putting more cost and regulation on the housing, and we could talk about that later.
Level, I guess, yeah.
But no, that's all at state level. This is Victorian state government is responsible for your unaffordable house. Be under no illusions about that.
Because of certain fees and taxes and all that sort of stuff.
Well, it's 40% of the cost of a house in Victoria's fees, taxes, charges, and government regulation.
Okay.
Right. So think about that, 40%. So when some of your listeners have this debate, the baby boomers have stolen their houses, just take a deep breath and go, well, let's look at what a baby boomer was buying to what you're buying. Mm-hmm. A baby boomer was buying a house that didn't have the national construction code that just adds at least $100,000 to your house.
Yeah.
It didn't have developer contribution charges and all these other things thrown in on top. Your house is so expensive because the government has made it expensive and continues to make it expensive, and more legislation's been passed through. It will continue to make it more expensive.
Yeah. Do you feel like there needs to be a balance struck where, like, understandable some of these taxes? No, I'm not saying get rid of all of them, but I'm sure some of these taxes probably benefit things in the community.
Well, I just go back to really basics.
Yeah.
KPMG late last year came out with a report, which you can't argue with, basically says the average Victorian can afford X amount as a mortgage, and that figures between 600,000 and 700,000.
Yeah.
Right? The average Victorian. Yeah, there'll be people who can afford more, but
that
I'm not worried about the people who can do more because you're okay.
Yeah.
But the average Victorian, from the median all the way down to the most vulnerable, that's maxes out, and there's a whole bunch of people in brackets well below that.
And that number doesn't take into account all these extra
So
fees
we
and
can
taxes.
talk all we like about government's planning law reform and all the stuff they're going to do.
Okay.
The only question worth asking is, when you deliver that, Jacinta Allen, how much is that unit going to cost in your activity centre? How much is that house in that new area of rezone? What's it cost?
Yeah.
Oh, well, every single building company tells you will not be building an apartment in Jacinta Allen's new activity zones for under $1 million for a two-bedroom, a cheap two-bedroom. And if you want a car park or a three-bedroom or an apartment that you can call a family home, $1.5+ million.
Wow.
Right? Now, that is fundamentally a problem.
Yeah.
So then you've got to go, how do we get that price down? Well, there's a whole bunch of planning laws about how an apartment has to be that adds that cost. Now, I believe let people have choices. Do you want a house or do you not want a house? If you want a house and it's your first home, now I'm the luxury of I'm on my second or third home that I've lived in, right? So my wife and I had a very simple home when we first got married, and everyone who buys their first home knows it's not their forever home.
Yeah,
that's your aspiration, but you've got to get your foot in the door.
Yeah, so that's the advice my dad gives me. Just buy something.
Just get in, get your foot in the door and have somewhere. And, home is ultimately the things in it, the people in it, your experiences in it, right? And
I've grown up in caravans, I get it.
Yeah, that's right,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So home, I remember my mum's advice. My wife and I really sad leaving our first home. She said, don't worry, because when you take your things and your vibe comes into your new house, it just becomes home again, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So we can be quite flexible about that, but instead, government now tells us how thick our windows have to be, how much insulation we need, how many solar panels we have to have, where the water's got to come from. We've got to have had developer contribution charges that can amount to $100,000 on the cost of the land to go to provide the park at the end of the street, and it just goes on and on and on. We're all paying for it, right?
Like some of it could make sense, for safety reasons.
Yeah, well,
some
no one wants to live in an
excessive.
unsafe house, but
Yeah.
you're a bit younger than me. I'm a kid of the 70s, right?
Yep.
No one I know or I can find died in a house built in the 1970s because it was a 1970s house,
Yeah.
right? I don't remember kids coming to school dying of frostbite or heat exhaustion in the 1970s, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember their mums not being able to mums and dads make their lunches because the kitchen range hood was 10 millimetres lower than what it is today. I don't recall any of those things happening.
Right. Still got made. Nothing to worry about.
Nothing to worry about, right?
Yeah.
And do you know what? Every one of those kids was better off for having a home to go to than so many kids today who, take
Probably
out.
growing up in rental
If your mum's if you've gone with your mum to escape domestic violence, you will in Victoria today be 2 years in either a caravan or a cheap motel or a dodgy Airbnb or something for up to the waiting time's 2 years. So 2 years before you find something that could be a home.
Yeah.
Right? That's a terrible outcome.
Yeah.
And that's because we've just made houses so expensive to build. So we need to have the conversation about, have we built too much cost into a house?
Yeah. With certain regulations.
Yeah, like we can all have the perfect house.
Yeah.
But we're actually building perfect houses now in Victoria that you'd build in Norway. Guess what, folks? We live in the most climatically stable Mediterranean climate. And we are really lucky in Victoria, right?
Hence why
we don't have cyclones. We don't have huge, we get 3 hot days in February. If you look at the thing, people go, climate change. Guess what? Pull up the computer, look at the amount of hot days we have. It's a handful, right?
Yeah.
Young people in the first day.
It's never the best or never the worst in this country.
That's right.
It's pretty medium.
It's pretty medium.
You just need something that gets the job done.
Yep.
Like a Polwarth sheep.
Yeah, that's right. Be sensible and reliable. Yeah. And so my point quite simply is when we have this conversation, we're leaving out the cost.
Yep.
In Melbourne today, as we sit on this couch, there are 3,500 brand new units available for sale and have been since 2022, right?
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
So we don't have a shortage of flats. What we have is people can't afford to buy those flats.
Yep.
Right? Because it's just too expensive.
Yeah.
And they've proven to be a really bad investment because they just...
Apartments in general.
They've stagnated, right?
Yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of other issues, but,
that's a whole other discussion.
It's another whole discussion.
Whether it needs to be an investment or whether it just needs to be a home. That's a whole other thing.
And so, and investments and homes are not the same thing.
Yep.
Like perhaps in what people want.
Yeah.
So we need more choice, and I'll let people, as I experienced as a kid in the 70s, when your house wasn't quite big enough, your parents built on another bedroom.
Yeah.
Or if your house was too cold and you didn't have insulation, your parents saved up for it and then they got the installation installed.
Growing up in Queensland, I know all about it. The house is like a labyrinth of just extensions. Yeah. But yeah, going on that, we'll wrap up, but because I'm eating at your time now. But final question: if you could go back to the first moment you ever considered entering politics, what piece of advice would you give yourself?
Well, that advice I gave at the start, which is the same one, which is just because you're young and know everything, don't assume you're going to make a good politician. Make sure that you can demonstrate experience working with other people, because the problem we all have, it's a natural human problem. We know all the stuff that we and our friends know, right? All the people we talk to every day, we're experts. We can sit at the pub or sit in the beer garden and we're chewing the fat on all these terrible things that all the people like me have as a problem.
Yep.
But guess what? You and your mates are just this much of a bigger community. There's all the old people, the young people, people with completely different political views to you, and they're all sitting around doing the same thing, having completely different problems.
Yeah.
And to do this job well, you have to accept that most people don't see the world like you.
No.
They can have share snippets of the world that you live in, but they come to it with different experiences and expectations. And just a simple thing like really fundamentally understanding, as I did with my time involved in a hospital, was sometimes things that to me are just like, why is this even a problem? Mm-hmm. But I didn't have a whole bunch of childhood trauma about something to do with, perhaps in my childhood that's forever changed the way I think about something.
Yeah.
And so you can be sitting there just going, why is this person thinking like they are? But unless you understand and learn how to dive a bit deeper and understand where they're coming from.
Mm-hmm. And have those conversations and
just go, oh, right, okay, that's why you don't want policemen in schools, because you saw your mum or dad cut off by a policeman or something, So that's the stuff that you've got to be good at in this job, is understanding.
Putting yourself out there and understanding different perspectives.
And just understanding, And, one of the great debates I love, one of the things we do in our office also is have a little chart of The Guardian, Sky News, The Age.
Yep.
And as soon as someone starts up with their biggest problem in the world, we put them in the column because we know they've got them from the Guardian perspective or the Sky News perspective.
That's where they got that thought from.
Yeah, well, that's where you can tell. So, all right. So and I often ask, where do you get your information from?
Yeah.
Because first of all, they might start with, politicians don't understand. You have no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay, where do you get your information? Or they might say, oh, you're useless. We never see you. Where do you get your information from? Oh, do you watch the news? Mm-hmm. Oh, no, I haven't watched the news for this year. Okay,
no, I get it on social media. Or
okay, which paper do you? Oh, I don't read it. I've never bought a paper for 10 years. Okay. Do you listen? No, I only listen to Spotify. Okay, so you're not getting it from there. So how do you know
about this problem?
Or that the Liberal Party hasn't done anything about it or the government's to blame or whatever. And so it's
is there one column where it's just like a personal issue? Like it's something the person's actually had to face and that's why they're bringing the issue to you?
Yeah. They're just the ones that's come in, they've got this problem.
Yeah.
And generally, people that have that, the bit that surprises someone who's always had an opinion on everything is there are, and this is the other big key part of our job, there's a whole bunch of people who do not know how to advocate for themselves.
Yeah.
They've got themselves into a terrible pickle because they just didn't understand what their rights or responsibilities were. You know, they might have had a responsibility to report something because unless you tell someone, how's anyone supposed to know?
Yeah, but sometimes people's lives get busy and overcomplicated.
Yeah, and people
get to it
and sadly, I think we at the very start of the conversation we talked about pedestals that politicians are held on, right?
Yeah.
And everyone wants their politician to be an average bloke or woman, an average person. Yep, that's good. Tick. We want you to be average, but we want you available all the time.
Yeah.
We want you to do this, do that, and we want you to live a life that none of us
have to experience.
Yeah, like we don't want you drinking in public. We don't want you doing this. We don't want you to have an affair. We don't want you to, all these.
Yeah. You need to be godlike, but you need to be an everyday person.
An everyday person.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting. So you just got to
complicate it.
So I'm sitting here talking to you today dressed like this, right? This is my politician's uniform.
Yep.
Now, a lot of people say, oh, Richard, why do you dress like that? Because no one wears a tie anymore and everyone has open shirts. We're all blokes and we're all mates and we're all average people. I go, yeah, that's what people say they want, but people want me to look serious. They want me to look like I'm someone they can trust or, that's my view. That's my uniform for being a politician is that I take it seriously. I get up and I'm dressed like this. Otherwise, I'm in my gardening clothes and out pruning roses or digging weeds, in which case I'm in jeans full of holes and an old straw hat.
Oh, wow. I respect it. I like a good plot of land. All right. Well, on that, we'll wrap this up so you can get on with your parliamentary day.
Yep.
And so you can get back to your farm sooner on the weekend.
Yeah. All right. Good.
Was that rude to assume it's a farm? No.
No, it's not a farm. No. It's a big old garden. I'm a mad gardener.
Yep.
Yes, it's a luxury.
All right. Well, next time I'm in the Colac area, I'll.
Yeah. So it's about. I remember Jeff. There's a lot of famous politicians have been gardeners. I think Abraham Lincoln was a big gardener.
Yeah.
I'm putting myself in his.
There's a strong level of patience being taught.
Yeah, that's right, and it's very therapeutic. And you sit out there and you listen to the wind blowing, and you have when you're a little bit grumpy, you prune hedges. You just chop it all off, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it's very healthy.
Okay, so gardening and getting involved in the community. That's
getting involved.
2 bits of
two bits of very good karma.
Yeah. Well, look, thank you very much for your time today.
No
Richard.
worries. Good. Thank you.
No, appreciate it.